Hi, this is Doug,
And Brandon.
and today we're going to do another Mustang how-to. This one is going to be about replacing the pillar cover on a 1969 Mustang. In my case, I think that the 1970s are pretty much the same stuff, and I think I saw that the convertibles take a slightly different part, but this one's on a 1969 fastback Mustang. So what we see here is the part on the right is the original pillar cover, and those are, I believe, made out of fiberglass, and they dry up and crack. Mine had snapped off at the top. I mean, otherwise I was quite happy with it. It fit really well. Paint looks okay after being so old, but yeah, the top gets rigid. It just snapped off, and it wasn't looking good. That happened on both sides for me, so I'm replacing both sides. Now, again, the one on the right is the original piece. The one going to the left is the passenger side original piece. And the last one on the left side is the replacement part. A few things I'll say about the replacement part. The replacement part is, I believe, just a plastic. The originals, again, being a fiberglass. A clear difference when you get that replacement part from your original ones is that the originals are stiff, they're sturdy. They'll sit in there well, they cover well, they won't move around. And the replacement parts are a thin, kind of hollow plastic, and so they can flex a little bit. Actually, they can flex potentially a lot, but when I've got one installed, when it sits in there, it actually sits quite nicely. But again, it's just not as sturdy. If you were to tap on it, you'd notice the difference. Obviously, when you're driving in the car on a day-to-day basis, it is not going to matter. So the one thing about our install that we ran into is that with this aftermarket part, for me, it did not fit exactly. The two problems that I ran into most specifically is that there's the screw at the bottom down here is in the wrong position for me. I've only installed the passenger side, and this screw hole was far too low. So I had to re-drill the screw hole up higher. And matter of fact, I had to do it 2 different times because it's very hard to guess where exactly that screw will land. Even when you try and lay that original piece over the aftermarket piece, you can't exactly trust that as going off a measurement. So I drilled my best shot, put it in, lined the screw up. I could tell it still wasn't quite right, and made a second drill hole, worked out. The next problem I had is that where the circle is drilled on the top over here, it was also not in the right place for me to put the top bracket that goes across the front top of the windshield. That hole was not in the right place. I ended up having the bottom screw installed after I modified it, the top screw installed, didn't have to modify that, and then taking a drill with a fairly wide bit and drilling out the top to create a new hole for that last place where the screw goes through. And in that case, you just need the screw to go through. It doesn't actually need to tie to it because the screw is actually held in place by the metal bracket that goes across the top of the windshield. So the size of that hole for the last part doesn't matter really at all. But I had to play with those modifications. It obviously took me more time to do that. Now that it's in, I think things have worked out pretty well. These old ones are broken. Some people talk about repairing the fiberglass. I don't see myself taking the time to do that, and the complexity of it all and trying to get it figured out. I just really wanted to move on, getting it repaired and getting it done. And so I do find these aftermarket parts pretty good, but there is no question the original part is much better, being that it's solid and it fits better. And in my case, mine did not fit as well, but I am satisfied with it in the end after I've had to do some modifications. So let's talk about the install. A few things you need to know. I wasn't clear until I had already ordered my parts, and at that point I was deep in it. So you must know that when you're going to replace these, you are going to pull out your dash. There is no question about it. The lower portion of the pillar takes a screw, and that screw is hidden underneath and behind your dash. So you will have to take the dash out. I'm going to be supplying a video on how to take the dash out as a separate video. You can see we've got our old dash right there, and actually my dash is a dash that had been replaced and it's in great shape. So I only took it off just to get to these pillars and get them replaced. So you'll take the dash out. When you know what you're doing, that's going to take you 30, 40 minutes. Then to take these out will take another 5 minutes. It's not too bad. The only challenge again will be maybe modifying the part you have to use to get in there. There are definitely different vendors of these pillars and lots of price ranges. There may be certainly some vendors who've got things exactly right. I definitely ran into the fact that these needed to be modified. But I will say that I am happy with it in the end. It's a good clean look from where I was. It's no more cracks. It should certainly hold up, and I am happy with my purchase in the end. I probably rated about a 4 out of 5 after knowing that you've just got to deal with a little bit of modification, at least with some of the parts that are on the market. All right, in a minute we're going to switch to a shot where we will show what it looks like when it's taken out. You'll kind of show the dash, see the dash that's taken apart. And then I think we'll finish with another shot of the one that I've installed. It'll have everything on it except the top brace that goes across the windshield. So here's a shot of the pillar cover removed. Pretty much everything in the area had to be taken out, except you can leave the sun visors in. There's 3 screws that hold up the sun visors. You can leave those in. And mine is a Mach 1 interior. It's a little bit different than, because it comes with the deluxe interior. So mine, I ended up taking out the clock panel area, and I believe I actually could have left that on, but I ended up taking that out, so I don't want to say that's required. And I think with cars that are not the deluxe interior, there is a frame section that will come out with the dash, and so it may look a little bit different. So you know, in this case, again, this is the deluxe interior, and I decided to take the clock section out. Okay, this is a real quick clip I just wanted to show that shows the top brace that goes across the windshield has been removed. And to remove it, it was 2 screws on the sides. One of those screws is the screw that will be holding up the A-pillar, the top of it, the cover, exactly. And then in the center, you will remove, I had to remove my windshield review mirror and the bracket that holds up the sun visors, and then I could take the whole thing out. And so we ended up removing all of that, and then everything just kind of came out from there after the dash was out. Okay, I have the driver's side pillar installed. Again, I had to do some modifications down below. I had tried 2 or 3 times before I was able to get it to pretty much sit in there right. The hole for the lower portion for me was definitely in the wrong position. And then I even had to modify things a bit further from mine. I didn't like the way this sat across here, so I ended up adding just a little bit of extra black foam, a black foam piece that I had that I was able to cut and put in here because I felt like there was a gap in here and I could kind of see the screw and it just didn't look right to me. So I ended up filling that in, giving it a more professional look. And then if we look up top, this screw went in just fine, that aligned just fine, and this looks pretty good going along here. And then last but not least, I had to end up drilling this other hole to get this into the right place for the brace that goes across. This hole was absolutely in the wrong place. And I mean, I certainly know it was in the wrong place because this screw in went nice and straight. No problems with this screw. And once it's anchored and once that's anchored down below, this just wasn't lining up. So a few modifications, not too bad. I am happy with it in the end. I did scratch mine up just a bit, so take a little more time with it. You won't have that problem. But it does fit well, and again, I'm happy enough with it based on the fact the other one was dried up and cracked and coming apart.